What's up, everybody, and welcome to our much delayed but finally here spoiler review for Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1, The Ties That Grind, here on the
Geek Buddies! Hey!
We have something to talk
much
about.
delayed.
Yeah,
Much
what?
delayed. Delayed. Isn't it much delayed?
I mean, it's been 4 days, or 3 or 4 days, I guess. But you're looking, where did you get that Superman shirt? That's the shirt I want. I don't want that light blue. I like that navy blue. So I'd like to find out where you got that whenever we
Man, I find stuff. I don't know. It was on one of the several superhero t-shirt sites that we peruse for each other.
Fair enough. I got to get that one. But yeah, we are here to talk about Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1. A lot going on in this episode with the return of Peacemaker. And it's crazy to think it's been 3 years. Like, this series came out before Black Adam, and it feels like Black Adam was a lifetime ago. But here we are with James Gunn and Peter Safran.
I don't know why Black Adam is your barometer for anything. I've literally blocked Black Adam out of my entire mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say we remember things fondly closer to the things we're inclined to forget.
Fair enough. Yeah, blocked Adam, shall we say? But this is some. This is going to be a fun conversation to have. The return of the whole crew is back here for a second season of Peacemaker. It is written and directed by James Gunn, this particular episode. And it's called The Ties That Bind. And certainly this one felt like a little bit more of a darker element to it. We see Chris going into this other universe that is a much happier universe, at least at the outset. It feels that way. We don't know as the season goes along what they're going to show us in this new universe, but he seems to be this hero that he's always wanted to be and loved and respected for who he is. And on the other side, in his universe, Harcourt is dealing with a lot of stuff in terms of her quote unquote toxic masculinity, but her aggressiveness, her fights. Then we have Economos and Adebayo and what they're dealing with. And then Freddie Strowman and what he's dealing with there. And so we're seeing that clearly there a lot of stuff's happened since the end of the first season, and they're kind of in different places. And then we also had elements of Superman, the Justice Gang, all that stuff being in here. So, Michael, what are your initial overall thoughts of this particular episode?
Well, I'm just glad that we're seeing some variety in the DCU and not everything is written and directed by James Gunn.
Wow. You take your shot first before me. Go ahead. Please.
No. I'm kidding mostly. No, I really liked it a lot, actually. I do appreciate, despite that everything so far has been written and directed by James Gunn, that, you know, they're still letting Peacemaker, even with Superman coming out and DC Universe being this big kind of priority for Warner Brothers, that they're letting Peacemaker be what Peacemaker was, and definitely made no bones about it being adult. But I thought this was a really good setup for season 2. I thought all of the characters were given really, really interesting things. I was a little bit meh with the trailer when I was like, oh God, we're doing more multiverse stuff. Like, I don't know that multiverse is the way to go, but I think they're actually using the multiverse properly in a way that makes you go, oh, I know why I care about this emotionally. And I thought the way that they wove it into the DCEU and snipped it away from the DCU was simple and direct and very clear. So all in all, I was really happy with it, and I'm excited to see where season 2 goes.
Okay, Shannon, your thoughts on this first episode before we dive in deep into the spoiler stuff?
On first viewing, I was sort of like, it was okay. Like, you know, I am a noted prude, so there were one scene in particular that I was just like,
gee, I wonder which one.
Yeah, it's that bar fight. You know, I got trauma from all the bar fights I used to get in. But and also I was a little tired when I watched it. I watched it after work one day, and so I was sort of like, let's get to the end of this. It was watching the behind the scenes, the piece by piece, the first time that I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I got to go watch it again. And after watching it again, the darkness that you were alluding to, Johnny, especially as concerned with the world of Peacemaker, and him getting to see what could have been. You know what I mean? And I thought it was really, really nice. I mean, there are some very, very nice moments Very nice moments in there. There are parts that I wish were maybe a little funnier. That again, that's that James Gunn comedy that when it hits great, and when it doesn't, it. But I am excited after that second viewing to kind of to get back into the world of Peacemaker, because I think there is a lot of potential with what they set up.
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, I did like it a little bit better, but I still felt with some of the things that Michael was maybe alluding to is that, when James is writing everything, you're going to eventually hit that kind of saturation point of James Gunn humor. And I don't think all the jokes kind of worked. And to be honest with you, at times it veered into Anchorman territory. We are laughing, we are commenting on these gaps in time. And to me, that got a little strenuous. Where I think the show really worked for me is the human conversations and the things that they're experiencing, especially Harcourt. Listen, I'm one of these people that defend Jennifer Holland. I know people come after her because she's James Gunn's wife. If she wasn't good, I'd be the first one to tell you she wasn't good. But I think she's actually good in this role. I like seeing her in this role. And the fact that they're giving her more to do in this season, I think excites me overall. I was a little kind of miffed that Adebayo was kind of sent to the side, Economos a little bit sent to the side, but I'm hoping that's just because those are much more established from the last season, and we're going to see more of them as we go forward here. But I thought the Chris stuff was interesting too, because by the end of the show, of this episode rather, he's essentially murdered just about every member of his family. So, I mean, this is including himself. So this is an interesting thing when you look at it and what he's dealing with. But those conversations and him seeing this world of what could have been, is it the world that he really wants to live in? And once he finds out, if there's more to find out about that world that isn't quite what he thought it was, what's that going to do if he thought it was this great world when he thought he was living in a shitty world? So I think there's commentary going on subtly underneath all of that as well. So I liked what they set up. I did think it was slightly underwhelming, especially the opening song. But like overall, I think it got us back in the world and we're ready to go here specifically. Michael, let's swing back to you. What do you think about how they handled Peacemaker in this particular episode? We see him waking up with Eagly. We see him in his shorts walking around there, the well-curated butt of John Cena, as we see, and he walks into some of these universes. He sees this other universe. He glimpses his brother Keith there and his dad, and he runs away, goes to this orgy, comes back, then experiences, as I mentioned, this whole world, has a back and forth with Harcourt. Apparently something happened between them that she now says she regrets. And then by the end, the other Peacemaker finds him. They have a confrontation and he ends up killing this other version of himself in that universe. So by the end, it's an interesting place that he's left at. So what are your thoughts about how they handled his character in this particular episode?
Well, kind of overall, what I think is nice, and I think John Cena is doing a really nice job of, is this Peacemaker in season 2, he's kind of a more emotionally intelligent, vulnerable guy. Yes. I mean, the whole arc of season 1 was we took basically the villain from the Suicide Squad, and sort of peeled back the layers to see how he became the kind of dumbass idiot that he was. And then he sort of found this found family. But by the beginning of this season, this is a guy that kind of has a group of friends that he trusts. Yeah. Adebayo, he really opens up to her about he wants to not be seen as a joke. He kind of wants these things, even with Harcourt going to visit her and kind of being like, I'd like to talk about what happened. Like, I'm not saying he is the most emotionally intelligent man I've ever seen. He's still Peacemaker, but this is a Peacemaker who is really trying, and the world is not making it work for him. Like, it's almost like he did the work. He's a better human being, but the world is still treating him like he's not there yet. And that is frustrating for him. And so then when he is offered up this world where he is seen as a hero. His dad is a great guy. He didn't kill his brother. He doesn't have to deal with that trauma. He's dating the girl, or he was dating the girl that he wants to be dating. Like, you understand the temptation. And then when he is attacked by himself and has that fight scene, I was like, you're watching it out, or at least I was watching. I'm like, oh, okay. He's definitely killing his other self, because that's what this season is going to be. Like, you got to get that Peacemaker out of the way so that he can do what he's going to start doing, which is, oh, I'm going to try out both of these worlds and see which one I like better. And that's what I meant about the multiverse thing being good. Like I think the problem with the multiverse, it's the same thing as we talk about superhero fatigue. People like a superhero movie if it's good. We have fatigue because we have a lot of mediocre movies. We're tired of the multiverse because Marvel kept teasing the multiverse and talking about the multiverse and showing us Miss Minutes and explaining timelines, but you didn't get that emotional, oh, I can go live in a world where my dad's not a Klan member and my brother's alive. Like, yeah, I want to do that. That emotional connection is really what does it. And, you know, when he's sitting there, just like the image that you just brought up, like when he's sitting there with his family, with his brother and his dad, and they're just drinking whiskey and shooting the shit. And then on the Piece by Piece, they talk about this. When Robert Patrick gets up and goes to bed and just rubs his ear and says, love you, buddy. Like, that's all you really need. Like, we know this character enough to go, God, you've probably never had that amount of affection from someone who you are related to by blood in your life. Like, this is huge for you. So you get the temptation and the pull of this place. So I really thought, you know, what they set up really, really easily is, this is a guy that is a better person than he was in season 1, but no one is treating him that way, or almost no one is treating him that way. And he can go somewhere where he's going to get that respect. And I think that is a very easy get for a season arc of a show.
I think you make excellent points, right? Because he wants the Harcourt. He clearly wants the Harcourt relationship more than she seems to want it. So he's rejected in that way. And he gets rejected by the Justice Gang, essentially, when he has that interview there at the beginning of the show. And then by the end, he is attacked by his own self and has to kill his own self. But he still indulges in these moments like the orgy and snorting the coke and all. So he still has his things that he falls back on when he's depressed. So although he's advanced, he's still very much himself, and things that are still there that he needs to work out, which I kind of liked as well. What did you think, Shannon, about how they presented Chris in this particular episode and where he's at now at this time in his life?
I mean, this is a lot of, you know, trod ground already from what Vogel said, but I mean, I think the idea that, and it's something that I imagine a lot of us face every day, is that you're trying to do the right thing, you want to be your best, but the way you see yourself versus the way others see you, it takes a little more time, or maybe they will never see you that way. So you definitely understand the frustration that's set up by, you know, I saved the world. I'm trying to be a better person, and I'm still being disrespected. I'm still being, you know, looked down on. I'm still being laughed at. So knowing where he is emotionally and mentally, like, I think they're doing a really good job with the way everything is set up. And, you know, he gets this potential outlet where he is the thing that he's always wanted to be, and the people that are in his life, like some are back from the dead, some he has a completely different relationship with. So he sees like this is where I want to be. And obviously, as the season unfurls, we're probably going to find out some things about that world, or that world's going to find out some things about him. I mean, and so again, in terms of just storytelling, it's very, very ripe right now. And yeah, I mean, as someone who is not, has not always been the biggest John Cena fan, I mean, he proved a lot of people wrong with his work in the Suicide Squad, and then doubled down with season 1 of Peacemaker. He's doing a fantastic job. I mean, we talk about all the time that you have these kind of newer performers, newer on camera, dramatic performers, and they find that person, that director, who is able to unlock something in them. And that's clearly what James Gunn has done with John Cena. So knowing where he is going, I mean, even as he is running from his other self, that's a new Peacemaker. Old Peacemaker would have stood his ground and fought. And this, he's defending himself. And so you see the progress that he has made. But yeah, I mean, I think everything that we got was really, really nice. And I'm definitely curious to see which is going to be worse, the world that he thinks he wants to be in, or what the people think of him.
And the thing is, he's still dealing with like Vigilante trying to be his best friend all the time. We see stuff with that, but also there's a little, and of course Harcourt is trying to, encourage him to be the better version of himself, and she drives him to the audition for the Justice Gang and all that, which I think is
Adebayo.
really
Adebayo.
Adebayo drives him, and then you have Economos, who is spying on him, but he doesn't know it, and Rick Flag. So you have this idea that although even though he grasps that he's kind of being rejected, he really doesn't know how much more rejection is coming or how much more he's being monitored, which will be something when he confronts it. But I will point out something about the dad, which I think is fascinating. It was great to see Robert Patrick back, and David Denman, who I think is Shannon's. Didn't we go see him in a play one time, Shannon, a Shakespeare play or something? I can't remember.
I think so. I like David Denman a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's good.
Of course, Jenna Fisher's relationship in The Office, and James Gunn was married to Jenna Fisher before, so a weird little kind of wheels within wheels type of stuff. But I like that element. He's the right guy to choose to be his brother. I like that energy there as well. But the dad going off about imps, that to me was a little window into like, well, is this guy as good as we think? And he's the blue dragon, not the white dragon. So like, there's little interesting things about it all that I'm like, okay, what are they laying the groundwork for? So am I reading too much into it, Michael? Or do you think maybe there is a little bit of a tease that he's not as non-racist as we think?
This one, I will give you a 50-50. It didn't occur to me, and my initial reaction is you're reading too much into it. But now that you're saying it, I'm like, well, maybe. I thought that whole scene was more of a let's tell a really funny story that sort of is kind of a fun Easter egg in the same way that the 8th dimensional imp in Superman was, and the Batmites of the world and the Mixelplix. But like, let's tell a story about how even in this world, Chris was always kind of the one that was getting them into trouble. Like they kind of had that cute thing at the end about like, we'd be better off without him, but it wouldn't be as fun. So I leaned more towards that and not this is secret racism. That being said, as a white guy, maybe I just missed it.
No, I'm just saying, it caught me odd because they leaned on it. It's not like he said imps and then they
did. Back. No, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you say stuff and I sit here and I go, oh yeah, Johnny's reaching. And you started to say it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Johnny's did lean on it a long time. Maybe he's not wrong. I don't know. Maybe."
What about you, Shannon? Am I wrong on this?
No, I actually thought you were right from the beginning. That there is. I mean, granted, he thinks that one of them may have masturbated into his cereal, but also the way that they were discussing the imps, there is a dismissal. He's talking about David Denman's talking about how when he found a rotting corpse in the engine of his car, and there is sort of a like, these are still supposed to be like living beings, and you're being a little callous. But it is also funny the way that it's being presented.
Well, And I think more like, I think where it really is kind of going. I mean, Shannon talked a lot about, is it what he finds out about this world and what the world finds out about him. And, I don't know, like finding out that this world is secretly just as bad and that they're really bad guys and that they're evil, like that would be a choice. But I don't know that that's the choice they're going for here. What I think they're really, and it'll be interesting to see, it could go either way, but I kind of feel like they're going to lean more towards, look, we are all the sum of every choice we make, the good and the bad. You don't get to be the emotionally connected, evolved peacemaker that he is without making big mistakes, including killing Rick Flag's son.
Yes.
So in a world where his dad is not a Klansman and his brother is still alive, but none of them have had to deal with the issues that he's dealt with, he's going to think that's a great place to be. But I think what he's ultimately going to learn is, and this is a very James Gunn thing, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, everything else, like, no, you know what? Me and my fucked up friends and everything we've been through, that's what makes us as close and as tight as we are. And that ultimately the world that is a little bit more fucked up is the world that made you the person that you are. It's like, I think that's more what we're going to sort of see throughout the season. But maybe some racist imp shit is in there too. We'll see.
Yeah, well, and also when he's looking at the photos and the clippings, they defeat the rainbow creature, and we know what the rainbow symbolizes in our world, right? And so I wonder if and that may be me reaching a little bit. So I wonder if that's a commentary that they're they have certain feelings about certain things that's going to come out, because there's something, because the show does not pull back when it goes
you're right
after certain things. So who knows if maybe that's
I mean, the rainbow creature is a real thing that Batman and Robin fought in the Silver Age, so it was also a Easter egg, but there's a lot of things he could have pulled, and he did. That is a choice. It was like what, rainbow creature and ultra humanite, which again another DC Easter egg. But he didn't have to pull that one. So look, you could very well be right that in addition to him realizing that his world is better in the ways that that I was talking about, maybe his dad and his brother aren't as non-racist as they seem to be right now.
I think it's a psychological thing too, that we always think, well, if we had made better decisions, if we had had different lives, if my father had lived, if my brother had lived, if I had love in my life, I would have had a different life. And the thing is, you don't know. You have no idea. You just think maybe that's a possibility. And so I like that they're maybe opening that door to exploring that with Chris as his next evolution, which I think is great.
And again, this is why they're using the multiverse well, because you are right. That is something it's the whole sliding doors thing. It's the, well, if I had gone to this college instead of that college, if I had chosen to do this instead of that. And what we are presented here with, instead of just multiverse gobbledygook, is, oh, I actually can step into those choices.
Yes. Yeah.
And I can see if life is actually, in fact, better. And we get to watch that. And that is a compelling journey.
Yeah, sometimes I think about if I had not gone to Florida State, if I'd gone to Montana State, which was the other choice, how different my life would have been. Yeah, so it's a interesting.
Oh, I think about what would have happened when you and I were not very close friends, and you just walked up to me in the lobby of the theater school and said, "Do you want a room together in London?" Yeah. And I said, "Sure." And everyone was like, "Why'd you say sure? You don't know him that well." I was like, I don't know. I feel like it was the right choice. If I had said, "No, I'm going to room with Josh Moon," would we be geek buddying right now? Who knows?
I kind of feel like maybe not, because I met Shannon through you as well. So who knows? It's a weird kind of sliding doors. Let's go to that universe. But Shannon, let's move out of the multiverse. Let's move into Harcourt. What do you think about this portrayal here in this particular opening episode? Seeing where she's at, she has that moment with the therapist there, or who is vetting her in essence for a job, and says that she has she has toxic masculinity, which she says is ridiculous because she's a woman. Then she gets aggressive, defensive, and essentially proves his point, and then has an argument with Peacemaker, takes what I think is an unnecessary shot at 30 Seconds to Mars, essentially Jared Leto, but I guess that's but she's clearly rejecting Peacemaker, trying to have a relationship with her, rejecting his care for her, because she has some self-destructive impulses, some self-esteem shit to work out herself, goes to a bar, gets into these fights. And in the first season, she had the fight and she kind of survived the fight. In this season, we see that she goes a step too far, because she starts beating everybody up, whether they're trying to help her or not. And it ends up with her being kicked out of the bar there. So what do you think about how they portray her in this situation? Essentially turning that badass girl boss thing on its head, that trope that we've seen recently in shows and movies. What do you think about this?
Well, you also see this is all because of the end of season 1 with everything that happened with Amanda Waller. that her reach, even though she's on her heels right now, Amanda Waller's reach is pretty far, and she is essentially cut Harcourt's legs out from under her. Like there's nothing she can do. And when you've been trained your whole life for one thing, all you've ever done is one thing, and that one thing is taken away. It's like, who am I? So, I mean, one, it's a very funny scene with her and the therapist. I mean, and Jennifer Holland dropping the C word is, I mean, that's a very funny moment. She says it very entertainingly.
It's friend. It means friend in England.
It does sound different with an English or an Australian accent. It comes off a little more harmless. With the American accent, it stings the ears. But the moment where Peacemaker, like you do see that Peacemaker, that Chris Smith does genuinely care for her, and that there is there is some reciprocity there. Like, I don't think she knows how to process it, because she also is not what I would call, emotionally healthy, especially right now at this point in her life. But it sure sounds like, they went on a party boat and hooked up, and now she kind of doesn't know what to do with that, especially like, I can't think about you, I got to worry about me. And while it is fun to watch, one person take on 20 and kick ass, it did get pretty disturbing towards the end. You see like the dogpiling that happened, and by the end, you see them literally throw her out like a piece, like garbage, and you just see the state that she is in, bleeding from several spots all over her face. And in the coming attractions, it sounds like Rick Flag Sr. is going to provide her an opportunity to get back into the good graces of the government, and it will come at the expense of Peacemaker. So I mean, again, where they started with her and ended with her, I mean, I thought it was super, super intriguing, and I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, Mike, we went from her, beating people up to having a moment with Chris on the rooftop, maybe possibly opening the door to repairing what they had battled about earlier. But what did you think about the process from toxic masculinity to beating people up to maybe opening the door with Rick Flag Sr.?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great setup for the season for her. I mean, to Shannon's point about what we see in the coming attractions, I agree with you, Johnny, that like, I have no issue with James Gunn putting her in as much as he wants to, because she's great. Like, she's a great character. Like, this is a great character. And if this character was one of those characters that we continue to see popping up in other parts of the DCU, like, I'm good with it. She's really fun and she's really interesting. And I just love how far they push her into I'm not just a strong woman, I have all of the attributes of a strong male, but I also have all of the attributes of literally a toxic male. Like, she doesn't process her feelings. She takes things out, but she processes things by violence. She's not going to open up to people. She's pushing everyone away. Like, she has a lot of shit going on and I do think they go out of their way in a good way to sort of make it clear. She says to the therapist, this is because Waller might be on the outs, but she still has enough power to not get me a job anywhere. But then when the assistant takes her out to the car, the assistant sort of confirms, like, what's happening to you this isn't just Harcourt thinking that's what's happening to her. Like, she is being iced out. And that is frustrating because she has no other outlets for that. And then we see her take the outlet out. Like, watching her get the shit kicked out of her is upsetting. But it's also what she wants. She didn't go in there to beat those people up and win. She went in there and picked a fight knowing what was going to happen, because this is how she can feel something. And then the whole scene with her and Chris, Shannon covered it all really well, but like, I just think it was a really nice job of giving us some exposition. Like, okay, great. They did go on this boat. They did hook up. Some things happen. But seeing a Chris that is, like I was saying before, kind of open and being like, hey, we should talk about what happened. Like, he didn't do what the Peacemaker of season 1 would do. Be like, yeah, that was pretty great. Huh? You like that? He's like, hey, I kind of like you. More than friends. And she's like, I don't. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to talk about it. Like, just shutting him down. And so you see the way that, again, the people that she could go to and be vulnerable around and say, I'm hurting. Waller has fucked me over. I don't have any outlet. The people that would be there for her, she's pushing all them away and just going and like fighting strangers. So when Flag shows up and says, I'm going to give you everything you want, her version of this is, Peacemaker's version is the multiverse says, I'll give you everything you want. Let's see. But like, leave all your friends behind. Come live here. This is a nicer place. Rick Flag is giving Harcourt the same option, but it's like, hey, come back into the only job you know how to do well. Just fuck over the guy that probably deep down you do have more feelings for than you're admitting. And so for both of these characters, it's like, oh, okay, what these two want are on a crash course with each other. And you're like also sort of the romantic leads. This will be fun to watch.
Yeah, they're both damaged in different ways, except ironically, he has moved past where she was at it in season 1 and he's the one that wants to but she's now caught up in like the fact that she's displaced. And that's really the prevalent thing that I noticed in this episode, is that everyone is out of place. Chris wants to be in a certain place, but he's not being accepted in that place. Harcourt is being moved out of her place. Economos is spying on them, and he doesn't want to be in that place, but he needs the job.
Adebayo's living in the worst level of Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, exactly. And she's got the situation going on with the apartment and all of that. And then you have Vigilante, who is working at this fast food place with a manager who used to be below him, who is now moved past him on the pecking order of power in that restaurant. So everyone is out of place. And so Harcourt stuff, though, is the stuff that's fascinating, interesting to me. And I wonder if I don't know if I didn't see the post documentary. I should watch that, the piece by piece you guys were saying. But like this to me struck me like he's making a little bit of a commentary on this trope that we've seen over the last few years of let's make the women as toxic as the men, but we'll call that strong or strength. When in fact, the results of that is what you're seeing Harcourt dealing with, is that she'd rather have men beat her as touch than have a man who cares about her touch her and console her. Her consoling is men hitting her instead of having Chris like console her and talk to her, connect with her, hold hands with him. Like any of that stuff, she's rejecting that stuff because she's got her own issues of self-worth that she's navigating. And so I like that it's a commentary on this trope of girl boss energy that we've seen, because becoming the male toxic, the representation of male toxic on the female side is not somehow better, And so I like that they've got their own kind of things to overcome. Before we leave this section, anything you guys want to say on Economos or Adebayo or Vigilante about what they're dealing with or where they're going on?
To your point, they didn't have as much to do, but like, look, we got a lot of information about, what Economos' job was right now, what he was doing and how he feels about it, that Adebayo's kind of on the outs with her girlfriend, on the outs with her mom, obviously, and kind of really trying to find her place. And then Vigilante is just great. Like, he kind of is happy where he is, even though he's in a shitty position too. He just kind of wants to talk about owls, but he's just a great wild card character. And so, what this episode did is it kind of set the stage for all these kids. We know where everybody is now. And we know, to your point, what's going on in their lives, what's not working, where their frustrations are. And we've seen this gang that kind of came together in season 1 is a little bit disparate at this point. And watching how they come back together, why they come back together, and how it all goes down, that's going to be the fun of the season.
Yeah, Shannon, that scene on the roof felt like forced friendship when they're going to essentially have agendas against each other, you imagine, throughout the season, because it seemed like they were it was like getting together with people that you experienced something in the past, but the magic's not quite there anymore because part of experiencing it was the whole thing. And now that you've moved past it, it's kind of weird to go back to this place. What did you think about what's going on with the other characters here in this episode and that scene on the roof?
I think it's something that the three of us can definitely relate to. It's when you're in a play and that play closes.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get together with the cast afterwards of like, boy, that thing that happened was fun. So what are you doing next? It's these people that have been put together randomly, and then afterwards you find out whether this person is going to exist in your life going forward, or if they were just sort of a moment in time. So no, I think that's great, and my guess is that they will discover, being put through another big situation, that no, we are supposed to be in each other's lives as sort of this, found family. And also owls have 2 eyes.
I kind of like Vigilante saying, "Oh, I don't like sex. I just like to be invited so that, we can make connections and stuff like everybody else." That was a very funny line. But you know what? I got to say this. I'm with Shannon. I was a bit prudish, and I couldn't believe my reaction, feeling prudish about it. Michael, you were more open to the orgy, I think, right? Yes.
As I said, I think my exact quote to Shannon was, he was like, "Not shocking anybody. This scene really bothered me." And I was like, "Not shocking anybody. I didn't care about this scene. This was fine." And then I was like, "Also not shocking anybody. I've basically been in these situations. Like, it's fine. Like, I've been to these parties." Yeah, look, I think that, was it excessive? Yeah, sure. It was excessive, but is it any more excessive than the level of violence that Harcourt dealt with in the bar? Like, it's always just so funny that we see things in something that are super, super violent, And
Yeah.
we all talk about it. Oh man, that was intense. Oh, that was great. And whenever we see a bunch of dicks swinging and a bunch of people having sex at a party, we're like, oh my God. And it was like, look, what I think one part of it is James Gunn going out of his way to make it clear that even though he did Superman and even though we have this big DC universe, he talks about it with Clayface. He talks about everything like tonally we can be different. This was his, hey, look, we can be super different than my 4-quadrant family film over here. But also, I do think like Harcourt dealt with things in her way and it was extreme. And so Chris then also dealt with things in his way and it was equally as extreme. And I thought that, so like, you know, it does make sense. And his reaction to being in that orgy was as empty as I think Harcourt's ultimate reaction is to getting the shit kicked out of her. Neither one of these things is the answer. So, you know, it's not one of those things where it was like, it just kind of came out of nowhere and we're like, oh, I guess we want to see nudity now. Like it fit thematically with what was happening, but yeah, it was a lot. Sure.
It's a good point. And I guess in a world of the boys, it felt like, you know, they don't have these scenes that go on quite this long, but I think what you just said kind of unlocked it for me, Michael. That's a great point. We had to see them go to the extremes that they went to so we could see how empty and shallow the end result of it is when you go to these things that you know so well and that are comfortable for you because that's what you know and you think that's going to bring you some kind of peace or comfort, but in the end when you really want to change, those things don't actually bring you any peace and comfort. And I think that's a very powerful message that's going on at the end of both.
And like, you know, look, think of it this way. Would it have worked as well? So we know, Chris knows the very first scene in the show is he goes into the little pocket dimension, which we should talk about pocket dimensions in a minute. But like he goes into the pocket dimension, he makes this discovery. He doesn't touch it for a while. He doesn't go back. Like he knows it's there. If he had just gone home after the Justice Gang debacle and sat on the couch, smoked some weed, thought about it for a minute, and then got up and went into the pocket dimension, sure, we would have bought that. But seeing him in the middle of this just like bacchanal, this debaucherous scene, and nothing is doing it for him. Like he couldn't give a shit about any of the stuff that's happening. And he kind of gets up and stumbles to that door. It's like, it feels like a bigger choice. It feels more like, oh, wow, he's like, that he's doing it, he's going in. I think it just kind of like surrounding it with all that other stuff does work a little bit better.
Go ahead.
So the show has sort of an associated podcast that James Gunn is also hosting, which I started listening to the first episode
because why not? He's so empty, has a lot of time and whatever. But yes,
you know, I was going to leave that part out that John takes issue with this, but since he's the one who brought it up, the first episode very, very enjoyable because they have Steve AGEE on it, Jennifer Holland, Frank Grillo. But they do specifically talk about that scene, the orgy scene, and talking about the performers that are in that scene. Like those are background specialty performers, and like these are professionals, and this is, you know, they are actors. And like when cut is called, they all grab their robes and, you know, they probably sit down on their chairs and start checking their phones. But also James Gunn did specifically say, like, yes, this is, I wanted to be able to do this because I wanted to say this episode, probably not for kids, but reiterating what you guys already pointed out about the tonal differences that are going to be coming in the DCU. That was one of the reasons that he wanted to do it, is just like, this is this world. I mean, he might pop up in other characters' worlds, but this is his world.
Fair point. Let's wrap up on a couple more things here. Michael, you mentioned it. What are your thoughts on the pocket universes? What do you think? What are your thoughts on what happened here in the pocket universes? The battle that, of course, came as a result of the pocket universe. But what do you think they're teasing here that we're going to be exploring in the show?
Well, I like that we sort of expanded on the idea of the pocket universe, like opening it up with that alien coming in and like roasting that alien rat or whatever. I'm sure we'll see that alien again since he's dancing in the opening credits, but then that leading into this discovery that this is a connection to other worlds, really opens up the idea. But what I particularly liked, because I like it when interconnected franchise world building works good, works well. And I like that the bigger sort of arc of this season that's going to drive a lot of this is everybody is reasonably nervous about pocket universes after Lex Luthor nearly like ripped the planet apart with his fucking pocket universe. So obviously Argus is going to be on high alert for this, and that Chris has a fucking pocket universe in his dad's house, and that it's giving off the same energy and the same signals. So kind of talking about the Luthor incident and having Flag be hyper like aware of this, and that they're monitoring it, and that's what's going to kick this whole thing into gear. And that as much as Chris wants to go explore this other world, every time he does it, it's giving off signals like Luthor did. That's good world building. That is that right level of world building that if you don't watch Superman and you just watch Peacemaker, the fact that they're hyper aware of this and that this thing is weird and whatever, like that, it is enough that you can get it just fine. But if you are a nerd, like most of us are, and they talk about the Luthor incident and what happened in Metropolis, you go, oh yeah, this works. This makes sense. And so I just liked the way they wove all of that together. It made good sense for the world, but it also made good sense for this episode, for this series specifically.
Well, Shannon, what are your thoughts on it? Do you want to add anything else to what Michael said?
I mean, I thought it was really cool, and the fact that he's using a pocket universe as a shared storage space, that there are, and that there are other entities in their sort of multiverse that also use this space. It kind of lends credit to the theory that Robert Patrick's character, AGEE, like he didn't necessarily come up with this, like he found it, as well as some other people found it, and coincidentally, another AGEE found it from another universe, so it would make sense. No, I thought it was super cool, and the differences between the pocket universe we see in Superman, which is sort of, sparking and always kind of on the verge of collapse, versus this one that it seems very well established, but it would throw off the same energy signature, which is going to propel our story forward.
Good point. One last thing we should hit with two, I'll combine them. Shannon, what are your thoughts on the Justice Gang retcon and the new opening for season 2? Did this work for you? Did they work for you? Did you have any issues with the comments that were made and the fact that they shot them talking to each other but facing in the same direction? Really weird. So your thoughts on this shit?
I love the retcon. And it's just sort of we are going to talk about this once. This is how it happened. Now we are going forward. And also the inclusion of Guy Gardner saying, just like, did you know he tells people I'm a puke freak? Because that previously on the DCU where Peacemaker says, I threw up on a magic green carpet, a green magic carpet, and the thing was Green Lantern was into it. Apparently that wasn't in the show, but they were able to use it kind of going forward. So I thought that was, again, that's a super fun, happy accident. The opening credits, I was not a fan of. I love the song, but I think when you add more performers at varying levels of dance skill, you are going to have a less than perfect result. I love the opening credits of Peacemaker season 1. I thought the choreography, everyone looked like they just knew what they were doing, and the folks that maybe didn't know what they were doing as much, like the old man, you show him once, you put him way in the back. And with this one, I feel like the choreography just wasn't quite as snappy, and maybe that was the purpose, is like it's not supposed to be perfect, because none of us are perfect, much like Peacemaker.
Yeah, I thought the opening also kind of gives you the idea that some of them are going to die because they're stacked bodies on top of each other. So, but I agree that I didn't, the song, there's something about the song. It's symbolic about wanting to protect your child from the world, but your child is going to experience negative stuff. And then I didn't think the song was that great. And so I agree with you on that, Shannon, but I like the retcon but I was confused why Supergirl was there. What did you think, Mike, about the retcon, and what did you think about the opening to the episode?
I think the retcon was great. Doing a little bit of ADR and switching out, in season 1 when he made a joke about Aquaman fucking fish, and Adebayo's like, why don't you call the Justice League? And then we have the ending that we have. Doing a previously on where you just switch out Justice Gang for Justice League, switch out a Green Lantern joke for the Aquaman fucking fish joke, and then throw them in at the end, and you go, that's what it is. You're like, it's just hey, we're going to just call this what it is. Like we were going mid-year. I saw James Gunn on on Twitter, somebody was like, well, is this saying that he's in a different level of the multiverse and there's a Peacemaker that met the Justice Gang and there's a Peacemaker that met the Justice League? And James Gunn was like, no, it's saying that when we shot this 3 years ago, there was a Justice League and now we've fixed it. Like, you're just like, this is what it was. We are all just going to sort of hold hands and say, this is what really happened in season 1 if you squint your eyes. And I think that's great. I far prefer that to trying to shove in some multiversal explanation in the episode that doesn't even really make sense and it's just there to justify. I think just calling it what it is and making the switch was better. The Supergirl thing, I was surprised to see Supergirl, but I wasn't quite as shocked as other people were. I guess I get it that the way Superman ends, she kind of shows up and we don't have context for how long she's been around or whatever, but like Superman's been watching her dog. So it's not like that was the first time she had been to Earth. And that she and Superman have been on Earth. Superman's been around for 3 years. I don't know how long Kara's been around, but that if there was some giant alien threat and Superman was going to show up because the Justice Gang was going over there, he'd be like, yo, cuz, you should come with us. You're on a yellow planet. You can't be drunk right now. And also I just thought it looked nice having them all together. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm into that. I had more, I mean, the only nitpicks and quibbles that I had with the episode were mostly in the Justice Gang scene when they were interviewing Chris. And other than that, I was good with all the changes they made.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What were your quibbles? Because they might be the same as mine. Then we'll wrap up our review with this.
Well, I have two. You know, you guys talk about how you're prudish about the orgy scene. I do have the things that tick me off. And one of those things that ticks me off personally is when people use gay shit as a punchline and it's not that funny.
There we go.
It's you know, and this is where James Gunn's sort of juvenile humor, even when it makes sense contextually given the character, does sort of rub me wrong. Okay. So when they're doing the whole interrogation scene and he can hear Max Lord and the other two talking, and they're talking about Peacemaker special skills, and Guy Gardner's like, yeah, sucking dick. Or he's, you know, whatever he says about that. Yeah. It's not funny. And yes, a character like Guy Gardner probably would say something like that, but like there's so many other jokes in the world, like having to use gay as a punchline just feels lazy and old school and something that like we could do better. Even if you did the joke where he was like, yeah, sucking dick. And Hawkgirl was like, oh, dude, shut up. And he was like, whatever, I know a gay Green Lantern. I can say this. Like there's ways you could have plussed the joke to make it better, but it just kind of rubbed me wrong. And then additionally, when he left and Maxwell Lord was like, oh God, how many times did I talk about White Rabbit's camel toe? I must have said it 30 times. It was kind of the same thing. I was like, you have a chick in a White Rabbit costume and the best joke that you can come up with is her camel toe. Like those two were kind of representative and indicative of like the low bar of the James Gunn humor, where I'm just like, if that joke had happened to be really, really funny, I would have given it to you, but neither of them were that funny. And then the other thing that really, those were little quibbles. The one that bothered me the most is, as much as I enjoyed the pocket dimension stuff and how it tied into Superman and it was good world building, on the negative side of world building, I don't know how Maxwell Lord can sit in an interview with Peacemaker and say that he doesn't like that Peacemaker has killed people and they need to have a good name for metahumans, and not bring up the fact that the girl sitting next to him just killed a world leader in Superman. Like you kind of and I mean, even if they had addressed it and then been Maxwell like, look, we're having a lot of trouble with metahumans and how they're perceived in the media, and we need to make sure that nobody in the Justice Gang kills people. And Guy Gardner was like, exactly. And Hawkgirl was like, oh my God, let it go. Okay. Like we've talked about it. Like if they had referenced it on any level, but bringing up Peacemaker's violent tendencies and how he has killed people, when Hawkgirl did drop the dude from the sky in Bialia and was like, that was that. It's like, if they're going to continue to ignore that, that will always bother me more and more and more and more about Superman.
Okay. Shannon, did you have any quibbles about this opening? Any issues?
I mean, the hot girl thing is definitely like because James Gunn has been quoted in interviews as saying like, hey, that there's going to be some repercussions there. And that's a pretty easy ADR fix. Like, I'm sure that you have a shot of Isabella Merced rolling her eyes. You can throw in an ADR line of Sean Gunn saying something about dropping a world leader like that. That was a surprising omission. In terms of the humor, no, I agree with Vogel. Like, I think the whole thing could have been funnier, and that it was just a little lazy. On the positive side of the scene, and this is not something I expected to be saying, anytime Sean Gunn or Jennifer Holland gets cast in a project that James Gunn is directing, immediately it's like, of course, it's your brother, it's your wife. I actually really liked Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord. I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting, and not being overly familiar with Sean Gunn's resume, mainly through like his brother. What we were getting, I think this character is going to be an interesting addition in the DCU going forward.
Yeah, he said in interviews, I think over the weekend, that the Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord is not the Maxwell Lord that shot Ted Kord in the face. It is a Maxwell Lord that's more the JLI Maxwell Lord, who's got, he may be at times ambiguous, makes morally ambiguous decisions, but his heart's in the right place. So you sense that from the man. My issue with the Maxwell Lord stuff in this opening scene is he's the head of Lord Tech. He doesn't fucking know how a microphone works. Bull fucking shit. He's gonna trust Green Lantern to put the microphone together. Bull fucking shit. So that's my little quibble. But Michael, the sucking dicks thing did bother me, but I didn't quite figure out why it bothered me until you clarified it here on the show. I absolutely agree with you. But the White Rabbit thing bothered me, and I thought it was sexist as fuck. You don't give her any lines. You ever walk in a sexy outfit, and then you make fun of the fact that you were making comments about her camel toe, which turns your Maxwell Lord into a sexist asshole. And this is where we have the issues with James Gunn's humor, where those tweets that he took down from 10, 15 years ago, yes, he's supposedly gone on a journey and become a better person. Well, you can see that James Gunn, who he really is, in those tweets, is still around in these moments. And I think that's the danger. When you have him writing so much stuff, some of these moments, it's going to expose some of his more, shall we say, knuckle dragging instincts in some of his commentary about this stuff. So,
and just to be super clear before it like shows up in the comments, like, I'm not saying that making a joke about gay people or a joke about women or a joke about anything is off limits, because I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, we can't joke about these things. I think, in point of fact, given all of the issues we have with identity and race and sexuality and everything, the more that we can find the right way to joke about it, the better. But we do sort of like need to evolve past the vaginas and dicks as a punchline and come up with a better way to joke about those things. Yeah. Like, and I think that that's where you look at those moments. Like, I think that I'd have no issue with White Rabbit being in a super sexy outfit, because it was a comics accurate White Rabbit outfit. That's literally what White Rabbit looks like in Batman comics. But finding a different way to sort of comment on it, or what I do find works a lot of the time, as I was saying, is having a character like a Guy Gardner make a typically James Gunn type of joke, and then have somebody else kind of call him out on it, and then make a joke on the calling out of it. And you can sort of build into something that's really funny. Like, if you remember, what was the movie where everybody, everyone, the world was ending and everybody was at the house party? Seth Rogen, and
this is the end.
Yeah. This is the end. It's when Emma Watson shows up, and then they have the entire like extended, like, I thought you were going to rape me. Well, why did you bring up rape? Well, I didn't bring up rape. I was just saying we need to make you comfortable about the rape. And then she beats them all the fuck up because she thinks they're going to rape her. Yeah. That was kind of how you do those kind of jokes. And you're like, oh, that was really funny. So I think there's ways to do it. And to Shannon's point, the whole thing I loved the idea of it. I loved bringing the Justice Gang in. I loved them being a part of this world. I do agree that I thought Maxwell Lord was interesting. I just think that scene in particular could have been a lot funnier. And there was other scenes in Peacemaker that I thought were much funnier.
Yeah.
Do you think Peacemaker's line to Adebayo when he says, apparently one of my skills is sucking dick, which he thought was an insult. Guess what? That's a compliment. Is that enough of an address, or do you think that's how James Gunn sort of justified it?
It's a bit of it was addressed in that way. Like, I do think that sort of mitigates it a little bit, but it just still feels, what it really does is they walk a fine line with Maxwell Lord, Guy Gardner, and Hawkgirl. And they walked the line in Superman as well. Like, I'm still not 100% clear on, am I supposed to be rooting for them or not? Like, Hawk Girl had no intention of getting up to help Superman. She did show up at the end, but she killed the Bialyan president. Guy Gardner is very Guy Gardner. Like, he's very on brand. I'm not saying he's not. But then Maxwell Lord, like, they were all so shitty to White Rabbit and Chris is our hero, that I'm like, where am I supposed to feel about them? And look, James Gunn is actually very good at taking characters that are rough around the edges and dislikable and making you fall in love with them and care for them. So I have no doubt he will get there. And we've been talking about this for 5 minutes. It didn't bother me. Like, it threw me out of the episode and now I hate the Justice Gang and James Gunn has the worst sense of humor in the world. It was the one quibble I had in an episode that I really, really enjoyed. But this is where James Gunn's humor, when, the thing that comes up the most about James Gunn, I think, is I don't love James Gunn's sense of humor. I do think when James Gunn hits the mark emotionally, he really hits the mark emotionally. And I think in this episode, you had this Justice Gang scene where I thought his humor didn't hit the mark. And then you have the scene at the end where Chris goes and has whiskey with his dead dad and his dead brother. And I'm like, God damn, James Gunn is good at this.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I think you could have solved it by having Mr. Terrific in that scene, calling out Guy Gardner and calling out her. But I don't know, because they said 6 months before. And I know James said that the season 1 occurs before Superman, then this season 2. But I don't know where the 6 months before, I think it was, the Justice Gang scene is with Chris. I don't know where that is in the timeline. So I think
just the scene at the end of the recap with the entire Justice Gang and Supergirl and Superman there. Yeah, that is before the events of Superman.
Yes.
James, the season 2, and when the Justice Gang is interviewing Chris, that is about 6 months after Superman.
Okay. All right.
So Terrific is around. Metamorpho is, ostensibly around now, but they weren't but that's why Metamorpho, for example, wasn't in the end of the recap, because he was in the pocket dimension at that point.
Yeah. What I'm saying, if Mr. Terrific had shown up in the Justice Gang scene in the interview, he's the one that could have called out Guy Gardner and Hawk Girl and Maxwell Lord and put them all in their place. So removing him, I thought, was not the smartest move. It could have solved everything. And I hear you, Shannon, on maybe mitigating it. But I think if he had said that to Guy Gardner as a way of pushing back, and maybe that's one of the reasons he didn't get accepted too, was that he pushed back on Guy. I think he could have solved 2 birds with 1 stone, having him say that. So you say that like it's a negative, that kind of thing. But anyway, all right. Well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for this first episode of Peacemaker season 2, episode 1. Shannon, what do we have to tell them, these fine folks? And thanks for watching.
Fine folks, thanks for watching. If you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's @geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. That thing I'm pinned for, still pinned. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is @MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is @The Rocha Says.
Mikey.
Go ahead and smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's John Rocha page and check out all the amazing John Rocha content that he has got John Rocha-ing around. Leave your comments below. What did you think of Peacemaker season 2? What did you think of the connections to Superman? What do you think of things going on in the bigger DC universe? Let us know below. If you're listening to us on a podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and comments so we go up in the rankings and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. Thank you all so much for watching. And of course, we will be back later on this week with our main episode of the show and another review of Peacemaker for episode 2 of this particular season. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of the
Geek Buddies.
Hey.
Hey.